Hey guys, it's your boy Zach Gamerboy here, and today I'm going to be recording a video on the book I wrote, uh, called, I made this last year. It's called Quantum Ground. Here's the case. Give me a second, I'll get a flashlight on there or something, I don't know. Let's see from here. Here it is, here. There. In a war, what team do you choose to join? There's Vulture, there's Eagle, there's Hawk, and it says Quantum Ground. So yeah, guys, let's get right into this. I think I might read the whole thing. I don't know. Quantum Ground. So, okay. I wrote this last year, so. So Arcarius gets awoken. He moved and looked up. All he saw was two glowing rays going straight up and down. All of a sudden, he remembered. He saw flashing images of. He was on home ship Starcracker. He had deployed in a V-21 that he called Sentry. He had crashed. He took a couple of times to kick the front of the cell-like container. He finally kicked out and stumbled to the ground. As he picked himself up, he looked up and saw Sentry, all rubbled and half under the ground from impact, engulfed 30% in flames. He looked at himself. He was wearing his battle uniform. It was sleek, white, with blue visors in the helmet, and then started clicking a holographic scanner located on his left wrist. He turned it on to try and find out what planet he had landed on. The hologram replied with a large buzz of static power off. He then looked at his hand. It was sparking and would not move. He must have needed to charge it. He reached with his right hand over to his back and grabbed a handle and pulled out a sleek, see-through dark blue saber with a white hilt. He looked around the area he was in. It was very swampy and very humid. He pressed something on the right side ear of his helmet and called in, "Garada, do you hear me? Over." He wait. He waited and only got more static in response. He pressed and called out again, "Garada, repeat. Do you hear me? Over." More static. He turned off the commute and started heading north with a sword at hand. As he was walking, he heard a growl. He cautiously looked around. He saw nothing. It growled again. This time he did not even get a chance when a giant, six-legged lizard as big as him jumped on top of him and, and started fiercely attacking. He looked out. He took out the saber, white, while pinned down, and swung left to right until either he died or the thing died. He swung until he heard. He looked, and the weight of the green beast fell off of him. All he could see was a thick, dark green liquid on the outside of his visors. As he wiped off the green liquid, he saw the beast's head roll a couple of feet on the ground. He got back up with a sigh and continued walking north, the saber in hand. As he walked, sweat started drizzling down the side of his face. He had been walking north non-stop for over an entire not forever. He had been walking north non-stop for over an entire hour. After a while, he found a tree stump to rest on. After he sat down, he grabbed a rifle from his back and reloaded the stock. He finally decided to move out after and reloaded the. Finally decided to move out after 5 minutes of sitting. He kept his gun at hand as he headed north. Hours went by. He got hungry. He was thirsty, and he was tired. Sarkaris limped as the pain in his legs finally got to him. As he fell to his knees, he heard something. It sounded like people, alive. He looked up as he saw some mud village. He trudged up to his feet, wheezing for air. His helmet made it harder to breathe, so he yanked off his helmet without hesitation. He kept it in hand as he weakly ran to the village. As he came in, wheezing and sweating, bolting in what seemed like a bar, all was silent water. As he tried to order water, the bartender was a roughed-up-looking man in his mid-40s. Sarkaris could not see, but he thought that he could see that under that snarled and tied-up, grease-filled beard, anger. He looked and said under his beard, "Fine," and rudely added, "You gonna pay?" Sarkaris then realized he had no money. Sarkaris said, no, I forgot." The man towered above, looking over him, and looked at his armor. The man growled and said, "You know what people like us do to people like you?" Sarkaris looked around the bar and saw a crowd around him full of rough guys wearing rusty plated and leather armor. Some had scars. Some also had missing teeth. They all stared directly into him. Sarkaris continued for all of them to hear. "What are you talking about?" he shouted in a rowdy and grisly voice. "Talking about that!" He pointed at Zarkaris' shoulder, and Zarkaris looked down and saw some sort of eagle or bird symbol. Zarkaris looked in confusion back up at the tall man and quietly said, "I don't know what that is." The man yelled, "Liar!" Zarkaris said, "Let me explain," and was punched. And he stumbled. He stumbled down off of the bar stool, wiped his nose with his arm, leaving a trail of blood from his nose streaking from his wrist down to his elbow. As he got up, he heard a lot of clicks. "Guns!" He jumped up and saw 5 men standing in front of him, all roughed up. One of them had a rusty shoulder plate and was bald and had a huge scar from the right side of his forehead down into his eye and through his mouth. The others were average men wearing leather pads. One had an Uzi strapped to his hip, the other had an assault rifle strapped to his back, and another one had two Glocks on both hips. And the last guy took out an AK-47. The bartender yelled at everyone else other than Zarkaris and the men, "Get the hell out!" Everyone else bolted out in seconds. The bartender leaned over the counter and proudly hissed, "These are my boys." Zarkaris looked around and proudly. No, Zarkaris looked around him and saw that they were getting ready to kill him, with all their guns at the ready. The man continued, "Before you die, I want you to know." He walked out from behind the bar and reveals two of his cybernetic legs. He shouted, "Get 'em, boys!" Zakarson immediately jumped up and ran behind a booth. The leather padded men and the scarred up guy took cover the bar behind the bar counter. Zakaris heard the loud noise of a gun breaking fire loose. Zakaris felt the bullet fling past his head. He loaded up his rifle, jumped up, and opened fire towards the first of the men he saw. He shot out. He shot out. The gun he used shot a blue neon bullet that left a blue streak of light in the air. He must have hurt someone, but not vitally, because all he heard was, "Ah! That son of a bitch shot me!" He then he then yelled out, "The son of a bitch shot my fucking hand!" Zarkaris peeked over and saw the man holding the Glocks with blood pouring from his hand palm. Zarkaris got back down and shot that guy in side of the side of the head. Blood spurted out as the man fell to the side. Zarkaris quickly shuffled back down behind the booth. Then he heard a loud crack of an Uzi. It shrieked and went over his head with a da 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 da. Bullet holes formed right in front of his feet. Sarkaris got back up and released fire again. His gun made a thunk as he shot down the Uzi wielder. Sarkaris looked around for the bearded bartender who had left the room. He ducked back down. He saw that the guy with the assault rifle was taking cover in the booth directly in front of Zarkaris. Zarkaris immediately jumped over the guy and shot him down. Zarkaris looked at the main counter. The scarred man came up from the counter with a sleek saber. Then Zarkaris jumped back under when he almost got shot down by an AK-47. He sat near the booth, well behind it. Zarkaris got ready. His gun started to hum, charging up. He jumped back up. Thunk! And the guy with the AK-47 lost his own head. The scarred man finally jumped up in an attack position. He yelled, "You killed them!" Their swords clashed above their heads when the scarred guy made a parry towards Zarkaris. They looked each other in the eyes. They got closer, about 6 inches from each other. Both had anger building in their faces. The scarred man said with a growl, "You are good." He forced his blade into the other direction, away from Zarkaris' blade. Zarkaris stood there silently, telling the scarred man to come at him. He charged towards Zarkaris, and he was surprised when Zarkaris did not even get hit due to the fact that their swords hit again and again and again and again and again and again and again until Zarkaris kicked the scarred man's ankles, making him fall to the ground, um, dropping his saber to the side. Zarkaris rose his saber up above his head and rose it over the scarred man, and slammed it back down into the scarred man's chest as a finishing blow. Zarkaris pulled his bloody saber out with a sigh of mix of exhaustion and relief. He went behind the bar counter into the back room. The bearded man was in there, standing in shock. The man finally snapped back with sheer panic. He screamed in a groggy voice tone, "No, please! I will do anything!" The man put both of his hands over his head. He explained even farther, his voice less groggy. Just listen to me. I will tell you anything you need to know." Sakara scowled with anger and put his gun up against the man's head. The man started a silent sob. The man helplessly wept. "Don't kill me." The man sniffed. "I will do anything." He sniffled one last time and then wept out. "I swear." Zakaras pressed his gun up against the man's head even harder. Zakaras snapped out, "Down to your knees!" The man immediately jumped down to his knees. Zakaras removed the gun from his head and started walking around the man in circles and asked calmly, "Okay, then. Okay." And asked calmly, "Okay, then answer this question." Asked in a blank tone. "No, okay, answer this question." He looked at the man directly in the eyes and glared at him and asked in a blank tone, "What planet am I on?" The panicked man looked at him, confusion and panic in his eyes, and whimpered out the words, I, I did, don't understand." Zakaris loaded up his gun and pointed it at the man's forehead. Zakaris growled out, "Answer!" The man panicked with the words, "Fine, fine, fine, I'll tell you." The man slowly looked up. "Planet Taurus." Tara. Zakaris put the gun back down and 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 asked the words. Zakaris put the gun down and asked, "Where's your ship?" The man stared at him and exclaimed the words, "Why? Why?" No, exclaimed the words, "Why?" Zakaris looked down at the kneeling man and put the gun barrel back onto the man's sweaty forehead and screamed, "Don't ask questions!" The scruffy man cried, "Fine, okay. Uh, um, it's in the back. Outside! In the back! I swear!" Zakaris managed to calm himself. He put the gun down and started to walk the other direction. But then the man started. But then he then heard the man calling the Tauran Republic on him. Zakaris bolted at the man, lodged his saber into the man's heart before he identified or told the identification of Zarkaris, so he grabbed the man's commute and crushed it into bits in less than 1 second. With nothing but only his own bare hands, he left the dead man and walked away.